Hi, I'm Dan Kibisky with the Society of Professional Journalists International Community. Mexico's got some really interesting things going on right now, and one of them is a piece of legislation that could change how the broadcast media work. And fortunately for us, we have Vicente Calderon, who's with the Tijuana Press and an expert at such things. So, Vicente, let's just go right into it. What is this proposal that the Mexican government has proposed that could affect how the media operate in Mexico?
Great to be with you, Dan. Well, this is an effort that many critics believe it's actually disguised as the concern about the rights of the audiences, of the people that are listening to television and radio broadcast industry, because the government complains that they are being abusive and not respectful, and they're basically the government is saying, the current administration is saying that the media is lying to the people and is making them confused, and it's in that sense violating the right to be informed of the public. We do have a law that recognizes an ombudsman for from the media outlets to defend the rights of the public, of the viewers, of the listeners, but it's something that is more discretionary and is up to the stations to have one particular person in charge of that position, or how they handle the situation. Now, the new administration, the Claudia Sheinbaum government, it has announced um, the beginning of a public consultation. So there's a public address from the office of the um, Comisión Reguladora de Telecomunicaciones, the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, where people can say their opinion about this proposal. What it says basically is now it's obligating the television and radio stations who are licensed by the government, who work under a concession from the government, that they have to comply with all these new rules. That is, basically, you will have to put one person in charge of this role, like defender of the audiences. Also, that you have to create a system where people, the public, will issue your complaints so you can address to it, and a new set of rules of how you're going to respond. You have to respond to that. The argument of the government, as I said, it's presented as a way to defend the public. The critics of this measure are saying that this is a way to censorship critical media. We have to recognize that there's a big problem of media malpractice or journalistic malpractice in Mexico. That's a given, unfortunately. And I have to recognize also that in many ways it's subsidized or pushed or promoted by some segments of the own government. This is something that we have been struggling with for many decades. But in reality, it looks like the government is trying to win the narrative. Things are not coming out as they wanted. Things are not showing that all the promises made by the government were fulfilled for the public. And the public is realizing that and turning against his support against Morena, basically. So, with the coverage of corruption and major infrastructure projects that are not being profitable and are becoming a waste of money, it's overpassing the preference of the people over the social programs, as they call it, when people gives away an universal pension for everybody, which is about, let's talk like about around a little bit less than $100 per month for everybody over 65. But there's also other versions of that for younger people or for vulnerable groups. So the government is giving away a lot of free money, but it's not, and that was a big important element to increase their popularity. But now that things are changing, where the results are not showing up, I mean, there's no Dinamarca-like style medical system in Mexico, as the President Lopez Obrador promised. We have a lot of deficiencies and corruption on the hospital or medical institutions, and like that, many other things. people is not happy with this current government. We will have an election on 2027 next year. So that's why we believe the government is very concerned about how to manage the message and
Right.
how to control his popularity with the message from the media.
Right. You had mentioned before we went on that you've got something like 17 governors, half of the Senate, mayors all over, and so the ruling party wants to make sure its message does get through, and it sees any criticism of the government as something that needs to be silenced. Is that a correct way of looking at it?
At least self-censorship, so they will be cautious about to criticize the government. And we have to, here at the border, we are always very adamant to pay attention to both sides of the border politics. And this is not that far away from what you guys are seeing in terms of polarization and people who love the federal government and people who is against the federal government. So we are seeing that this will have, just like the Trump administration is concerned about the midterm elections coming in November. In Mexico, Morena is very worried about the election on 2027 for that reason. We have a lot of stakes, and they can lose, for example, the control of the Congress and the Senate, and they could lose important amount of the governorship, the 17 governorships who will be at stake. And that will have a big impact, because that means that they will not be able to keep the same pressure and control on the situation. We believe that the real reason is that things are not going well for them, and they want to stop the high level of criticism that they are getting from opposition media outlets and from free media outlets that are just doing their job. And already the president admitted last week, I think it was last week, that they buy public advertising for certain groups, but they are not giving public advertising to critical media outlets like Reforma, TV Azteca, El Universal, or even Latinos, which is a very critical new media online outlet.
Okay, so let's just go back to the proposal that's still under consultation. What I understand is that each news organization, and so far this is just broadcasters, it's not newspapers, right? Each organization has to set up somebody to receive the complaints, basically an ombudsman. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say I make a complaint about your radio station, and you answer me back saying, well, your facts are wrong. The story was accurate. We stand by the story. Is that done then?
No,
Does that fit?
no.
Okay,
You can
what
go and
happens
complain.
next?
Yeah, you can go and complain and say the answers from Vicente's radio stations are still misleading or are in violation of my rights as a member of the audience. And then you can go and complain with the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, who has a team of 5 persons appointed by the government that will make decisions about how valuable or how worthy is your complaint. And then that commission has the possibility of find my radio station. It's a small percentage, but the impact, but it's I think it's a 1% or 0.1% of the income of public advertising or of advertising in general. The thing is that it's a way to sanction you economically, and and that decision will be made even when the government says, well, is the public with your own designated ombudsperson for the audiences. Yeah, but at the end, the government is saving or is keeping the prerogative of make the final decision. And that's where many people think that this is a way to pressure the media outlets, especially the ones licensed by the government, like just like in the U.S. television broadcasters or radio stations, that you have a permit by the government. to comply. Because eventually, obviously, you can think that if you accumulate several complaints that are not resulting of, well, maybe the damage economically is not that big, but then you become like a nuisance for the government and have some rights to say, well, we try with him with this system. And what we believe the risk is, first, we do have a problem of self-censorship for the conditions of the journalists to operate, but now the companies also will have to be thinking twice about to have to face all this bureaucratic process, even when it's presented as a way to defend your public. We do have in the law since 2013, I think, rules to establish this defender of the audiences. But this is making it more mandatory and open the intervention of the government. And this is where the risks have a lot of people concerning.
I mean, I could almost imagine supporters of any political party, to be honest, but specifically supporters of the government, whoever the government is at the time, to use this to just regularly complain and reject any argument from the broadcaster. Is that a feasible option in Mexico?
For us, knowing how the current media landscape operates in Mexico, of course, I mean, they have to, even some members of the party, of some minor political figures in a municipality, will be more than happy to complain and show their loyalty to the government. And that, let alone the influencers or the online new media, alternative media, to get paid by the government that could actually portray themselves as members of the audience and go and complain. And this is where the devil is hiding, according to the critics of this, because this opened the intervention to the government to again defend their own narrative.
Okay, you've mentioned several times this is rights of the audience. That's what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Have they defined what those rights are?
They claim that you are the one who will be, because one of the elements or the things that you are obligated to publicize is your code of ethics. So allegedly, those are the rights that will be openly stated. Everyone has to say what are their own rights. But then that is, we believe, just another trick to try to convince the general public that this is made out of their goodwill of the government. So I don't think they haven't made a list of the things that you have to do, because the government, the president Sheinbaum, even when she has been asked, says, well, they are the ones who want to say if they want to be a pro-lying media outlet, then they have to say it openly. So they are packaging this as a way to, we are the good ones defending the poor people, with is to the vulnerable to the decisions of the media outlets, the big corporations, which is not the case. Every day you can see that many of the best journalism is done by independent journalists working with different organizations, but more in an independent, almost freelancing role. I mean, we do have some media outlets, companies, well-structured corporations or businesses that are still doing good journalism, but it's not the majority. We have an increase with with the internet and the social media. We have more and more, especially in the local level, which is in many cases where the first news are being produced, and then explore and investigate or research better for other media outlets. So this is very concerning.
Yeah, just to back that up, there's been a lot of stories and documentaries about independent photographers and video photographers who have broken major stories and with facing great dangers from the government, from the cartels. And so I just want to back up, yes, the independent journalists do seem to be doing a lot of the work
Yeah. And those journalists doesn't have the same financial backing or infrastructure to be
Exactly.
facing. Even when they say that right now they are not be affected for this, they will not be affected because they are focusing on the big major broadcasting companies, radio and television. But eventually, this could have an impact on them. And as we have talked in the past, we do have a big problem of self censorship to the dangerous associated from the organized crime or from the government. You saw the case of Veracruz, for example, with a female reporter was brought out from her own home with gun armed men to who kidnapped her from her house. And we now know that public officials are involved in that crime, police officers, and even there's some accusation of municipal mayor or authorities. So this is just adding another concern. Every time a reporter has to decide what to cover, he will have to think twice and he's going to be able to do it, because besides those dangers, there's something probably easier. Or if you do your story and you expect that somebody, a major outlet, will pick that up, now the media outlet will have to think twice because they don't want to be fined.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Friday, August 21, the consultation ends. What's the time schedule then? When do we, how will the government move from there?
I can't remember exactly how much is the time that they're going to have to come up with the results. What I've been reading is that so far most of the opinions are against this measurement, but and I think looks like this is having a impact on the approach of the government, without showing a little bit more flexible or approach to it. And we have to wait for them to decide if this will be passed or have to be relaunched or restructured based on the response of the people. But we believe this, according to other efforts from the current government, the Claudia Sheinbaum government, is just an excuse to control the message and the criticism from the media.
Okay. Okay. Vicente Calderon, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and get updates of what's going on in Mexico. I want to thank you very much for taking the time and explaining this, what I consider to be a very important piece of legislation coming forward in Mexico, and something that is a further danger to our colleagues there. We will be keeping an eye on it, and let us know if there's anything we can do on the U.S. side to help as the government moves forward with this.
We will thank you, as always, for your concern, your interest in the Mexican media, Dan.